Hey everybody, and welcome to You're on Mute. This show is produced by Pexip, enabling video communication as it should be. My name is Mark Okern, and I am your person behind the scenes, your Wizard of Oz, your technical director, and your editor. I'm also a solutions architect with Pexip's U.S. federal team, but hey, I'm multi-talented. Our hosts for this episode are the usual duo, Kyle Forney, Pexip's Director of Solutions Architecture for U.S. Public Sector, and he's the guy who approves me getting a paycheck, so may I say he is as smart as he is good looking. Joining him is Justin Longo, Pexip's Channel Sales Manager, but Justin's not responsible anyway for my compensation, so I don't need to flatter him any further today. Our special guest this month is Mr. Derrick Kelly, Director of Solutions Enablement for AV industry giant AVI-SPL. This show was recorded live June 2nd, 2021.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of You're on Mute. My name's Justin Longo. I'm joined by my co-host, Kyle Forney. What's going on, Kyle?
Hello, everyone. Good, man. I'm doing really well. I am extremely jazzed up that they've let us create episode 2 for this. So that's a good start anyway.
The first one did better than I thought. You know, when we were talking about doing this, we were like, it'd be really cool if we got like 100 views. I checked this morning and we were at like 250 on the YouTube channel. So exceeding expectations. That's how we do it.
There you go. I like it. I'll tell you, a lot of good mojo going on right now as well. It's, as you know, we've been, sort of locked down and, kind of hunkered down for the last, 14, 15 months or so, Justin. I have to say, this past week was the first time that they've let this dog out of the cage. And I did travel for business for the first time since February of 2020. So I'm feeling very good about that. So even though things are not 100% back to normal, at least that piece is getting back to normal. So feeling pretty good.
How was the trip?
It was great, actually. Like I said, I noticed that, a lot of the hotels and things like that, they still have some things in place, a lot of protocols that are in place, and those may be there for some time yet. But it was nice to go out and see colleagues in person and not just looking at them through video, sort of like we are right now. But really nice to see people in person and get to shake hands and give hugs in a safe setting and all that kind of stuff. So it was all well and good. And things felt like they were getting back to normal in the world. So that's awesome.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny, coming into Pexip, I haven't met anybody in person yet. So it's always a little bit jarring when you meet people at first because you everybody's sitting here in frame and you don't know quite how big they are, how small they are, like Kyle, for all you know, I might be 7 feet tall. You don't know. We've never met in person. So it'll be a surprise for you.
It's funny you mentioned that because I did have the reaction from a few people that when I met them, they thought that I might be taller. I think for some reason I give off the impression that I'm, 6'2", 6'3", or more. And so when I walk in and I'm 5'10" and a half on a good day, I think that it's kind of jarring to people when they first meet me. But anyway,
giving off that tall guy energy, But anyway, we do have a really exciting guest today. We have Derrick Kelly, who's going to be joining us from AVI-SPL. Derrick has over 2 decades of experience in our industry, and he's really done it all from audio to AV to broadcasting. He's worked with large companies, small companies, large systems, small systems, you name it. Derrick's done it. He's been an engineer, a director of engineering. He's ran operations, and currently he's the director of enterprise solutions over at AVI-SPL. He's the practice leader for Pexip. He's also the practice leader for a couple of other UC providers. So a really credible person for us to be talking to and a very timely guest for us to have as folks are starting to get back into the office. We do have a lot of questions for Derrick today. So I'm interested to see his take on where he thinks we are heading as a global workforce.
Awesome. Hey,
there
Derrick.
He is. Welcome, Derrick.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So the burning question before we get started to kind of the meat of this, I know both of you are from Chicago. So what is the best Chicago Italian beef sandwich?
Ooh, for what occasion? So that's kind of, there's different levels in places. If you're just bringing people in from out of town who want to, experience it for the first time, you probably have to go to, Portillo's or Al's just to give them the kind of the input into it. And then there's a whole bunch of various locations depending on what you're really going for.
I've been to Portillo's once. It was in college, and I had no idea what I was getting. I didn't know it was like a special thing or whatever. But I got the beef, and then I also got like the chocolate cake milkshake thing that they have, where they put like the whole piece of chocolate cake in the milkshake. Next level gluttony, but it was awesome. How about you, Kyle?
I mean, you're potentially giving yourself a heart attack at some point from eating some of that. Now, here's the key though on the beef. Did hot peppers or sweet peppers?
All of the above, for sure.
You did hot and sweet? Oh, okay.
Oh, for sure. Is that a sin?
Usually,
Is that
pick a lane. Yeah, usually kind of pick a lane and stick with one of them. So,
my lane is every lane.
Yeah, usually when it comes to, pizza and beef and stuff like that, you can have some good arguments. But the one that is always critical on here is, what do you put on your hot dog? And so, from one Windy City person to another, Derrick, can I ask you, what is the one condiment you do not put on a hot dog here?
Ketchup. You never put ketchup on a hot dog.
Never, ever. Never, ever. If you do that, and actually, this is a true story. My younger brother came up to visit with my parents a few years back, and he ordered a hot dog at a restaurant. The kid was like, 14 years old at the time, and he asked for a plain hot dog with ketchup on it. And they literally had to put the ketchup on the side, served it to him on a separate plate because they would not put it on top of his hot dog for him on there. So they're pretty serious about it here. You do not want to mess with that stuff.
And if you go to certain restaurants, you got the polite response, in that situation. There may not be as polite of a response in other locations. So
That's right.
So again, kind of as some Chicago guys here, both the Cubs and the White Sox off to a hot start. What do we think? Are we Cubs fans? Are we White Sox fans? One of each?
I am a Sox fan, so I've been a Sox fan my whole life.
I am a
judging by judging behind the Kyle's shoulder there.
Yeah, I am a Cubs fan. It's been my birthright to be a Cubs fan, if you can call it that. But I'm just glad right now that we're seeing good baseball on both sides of town, which is always good to see. So.
That is true.
It's nice to see people back in the stadiums. I heard that Chicago is opening up back to 100% coming up here at the end of June. Is that right? So that'll be exciting.
Mid-June, as long as people are on the same path right now and don't screw it up.
Yeah, that's a nice way to say it. I mean, I would say mid-June is as long as the right people got paid, but that's just from my personal point of view from living here for a long time. So
Godspeed.
That is always in the background for anything related to Chicago political scenarios. So
absolutely. So maybe let's talk about a little bit about why we have you on here today. And AVI-SPL obviously has been something that's sort of been at the forefront of what we do. Justin and I work with Pexip, obviously, and so they're a great partner of ours. But Derrick, I mean, maybe just to kind of get started, could you, sort of just give us the 40,000 foot view about the company itself, what it is that they do, what do you guys kind of specialize in? Would love to hear that from you.
Sure. So AVI-SPL has been around for a long time. Recently just merged with Whitlock. I worked for both companies at some point throughout my career, and was actually legacy SPL prior to the AVI-SPL merger. But AVI-SPL is a global digital video and digital media company. We provide digital solutions for both UCC and audiovisual environments for companies. We work in pretty much most verticals. Our strongest ones are going to be enterprise, global, federal, and SLED, but we do work pretty much in almost every single type of environment. We have specialty groups for things like broadcast or for specific specialty environments, for specific kind of customized or structured video environments, for kind of controlled type spaces and everything else like that. So there's kind of a broad mix of capabilities. We have locations all over the globe, including the US, Canada, the UK, EMEA, Hong Kong, and a new entity in Mexico as well.
Derrick, you said a lot there, and I do kind of want to dive into some of that stuff specifically. First and foremost, you mentioned that Whitlock and AVI-SPL kind of went through a merger at the beginning of the pandemic, probably a year and a half ago. I remember when I got the news, I was sitting in a conference
14 months
room.
ago, yeah.
14 months ago. I was sitting in a conference room, and I remember everyone kind of looking down at their phone and then looking up and looking around, and it was, oh my God, AVI-SPL and Whitlock merged together. And now, they're this massive super company, and it was earth shattering at the time. But what was it like being part of a merger and trying to kind of get all the systems in place and make sure everybody was productive, on top of also trying to get people to be able to be productive and be able to work from home now that, the offices were closed?
So it's been an experience. We were officially legally able to talk to each other about a week or two before everything shut down everywhere. So there were a couple of small little get to know you events between the two companies and everything else like that. And then everybody parted ways and went to work from home. So there were a number of challenges to that, merging systems, merging different locations, trying to figure out exactly what we were going to do from a real estate perspective, how we were going to get the two different companies to function together, which processes were going to be adopted, et cetera. So there was a lot that went into those efforts. There were kind of groups assigned to it. And then there was just a lot of trial and error of working through it, figuring out where overlap was, figuring out where people could go, what kind of gaps and locations we may have, et cetera. So, all of it was done over video for the most part. There were some kind of in-person things, but mainly everything was done over video for the majority of our merging process, which was a very interesting experience.
So from that, and one of the things that I was kind of curious about, because obviously you did work at both, of the organizations, was there anything interesting from that you sort of noticed when that merger happened? I mean, did you have any different insights that you could offer to other people, or just, kind of take me inside that situation a little bit, what that was like for you?
No. So, I was meeting with people that I had used to work with that I hadn't had contact with in a little while. So that was one aspect of it. Being competitors, you kind of lose touch with some folks. So it was good to catch up with a whole host of people that I had known, see where they were now. Some of them had, moved up in the organization. Some were in kind of similar positions, et cetera. But, that was kind of that was a good thing, to re-catch up with some people that I had done a lot of really good work with previously, and kind of just figure out where we could work together and do what we needed to do and everything else like that. So, so that was good. The merging side of it was very interesting in the sense that, we had a lot of, stacked on locations. So places that we had two offices, places that had, people of similar skill sets or similar experiences and everything else like that. That we had to kind of figure out what to do. And that led to some changing of positions where people were offered new types of positions previously that they hadn't had before, or, just a whole host of different scenarios, related to that, which then, started solidifying what we were going to be as an organization. We also had the company that had purchased and merged us, kind of helping give us direction as to what they wanted to see out of both of our organizations, and then kind of go from there.
I think one of the things that I'm very interested in, selfishly, also just kind of from a Pexip standpoint as well, is I'd like to hear more about kind of that expansion into Mexico and what's driving that for you guys, and then also kind of talk about the steps that AVI-SPL had to take to start expanding into more global markets, again, through a pandemic, and then kind of some of the driving factors behind that as well.
We looked at a number of locations that could be first and foremost financial transaction locations, places that led to new opportunities that could expand our reach, and that we could establish legal entities and kind of work through a number of those scenarios. So from our view, we already had places in the UK, EMEA, APAC. And so we started looking at kind of Latin and South America as areas that we would potentially like to expand to, and areas of opportunity. And so Mexico was one that kind of came up as a spot that could lead us into kind of some other areas and kind of expand our reach from kind of an America's perspective, and then start working towards some more Latin American opportunities and locations as a whole. So a lot of what we look for in terms of our expansion is first and foremost where our customers are. And if we're starting to have to look at opportunities, or if we're starting to have to look at partnerships or anything else like that to accomplish work, once it gets to a certain point, it can make more sense for us to actually look at an entity there to be able to deliver for our customers globally. Considering we have 50 plus offices around the world, we start looking for what's going to be the best use case and best fit for all of our customers, and where we can transact legally, where we're not going to run into tax issues or any importation scenarios or anything else like that, and also where our partners are helping direct us towards where they're seeing some of the biggest opportunities and some of their biggest pain points as well.
Yeah, so that's great, actually, and it's one of the things that I found fascinating is the growth that you all saw even throughout the pandemic. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, Derrick, is overall, I mean, and I understand you all sell a lot of different products and services and all that sort of thing. How has video and unified comms in general made that impact your organization and to your customers?
I mean, it's been a huge part of our go-to-market over the last year. We did have some growth in the company because we created a group to really focus on unified communications and collaboration as a general platform with extreme focus on some of our best partners to grow with our customers and to grow with them as well throughout this process. That took kind of figuring out the best components of both companies, creating that path forward, the Whitlock AVI-SPL side of things, and kind of figuring out who were our best partners. And who were we going to go to bat with when we went to our customers? How we were going to approach the world, and even laying out not only reactionary responses for UCC needs, but also long-term roadmap options and what we can do for our customers, beyond the initial need and the initial reactionary response to everybody working from home. And so we kind of grew that group, and we kind of grew those scenarios to kind of provide a more consistent experience, no matter the platform, and no matter what the look was that needed to be done for individual customers, but then also have true expertise around it. Not only growing our ability to sell, but also growing our knowledge base and our certified individuals and subject matter experts on various different aspects of each one of our manufacturing partners.
As you look at UC as a whole, clearly you're very specialized in that. When you're out and you're speaking with customers, are there other pull through things that customers are talking to you about beyond just the UC piece, like things like security or SD-WAN, whatever the case may be? Like, what are some of the common things that AVI-SPL is being tasked with solving right now?
Initially we started going down kind of, how companies handled their receptionist scenarios in terms of go back to work. So from, temperature scenarios, temperature gauge scenarios and letting folks in and how they handle those structures in, as touchless of an environment as they possibly could, tying that then into digital signage, tying that into, security around the space, around space management, their, beyond just the meeting rooms and conference spaces, but also looking at how they were going to manage some of their hoteling from desk options or anything else like that. How they were going to tie that to their conferencing platforms, scheduling, kind of that whole stack of just all those different components of building a true workflow around a customer space and how that would work together, and then eventually we got to equipment too, to be able to make meeting room spaces work and everything else like that. But it was a true look at, what their actual workflow is, what is it expected to be, and what we could do for them as kind of an entire, tenant wide and location wide opportunity.
Yeah, and that's what I find so fascinating about what our partners do. It's that you come in and you solve a problem, and then it turns into, now that this workflow has been established and we're doing things this way, what about this? And then it just kind of evolves from there, and all of a sudden, you're really changing the way that people are experiencing work, right? So the way that kind of workplaces have evolved over the past year, especially, has been absolutely insane.
Yeah, definitely. And beyond that too, it's just, we've had to work in two modes. What people did to get through the kind of different lockdown scenarios, different back to work scenarios and everything else like that, and then what they're going to do long term. And so we had to kind of provide multiple options and provide multiple pathways that made sense. And anything we did, for the reactionary component had to be able to be built into a longer term solution. And so when you're exploring options for that, you have to be prepared to have, an 18 to 24 month roadmap with how this is going to turn around for them for every solution that you are proposing. And not just, hey, we're going to sell you something that'll, get you what you need for the reactionary component of trying to make sure that people can work remotely, but also what then can turn into a long-term opportunity for them to just, bring that as part of their workflow when they go back to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that's great, actually. One of the things that kind of caught or kind of sparked something there with what you just said is some of the challenges that these different customers are facing, and obviously every customer is different. They have unique challenges based upon who they are and where they're at and what they do for their business. But are there some broad challenges that you can sort of boil down to some different trends that you've been seeing like over the last year and a half or so, and how did your organization help to solve some of those?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest trends is, companies did what they needed to do to get by in a lot of cases. So there may be, companies that just kind of did, the marketing department did Zoom, and another department did Cisco. They already had an investment in Microsoft, and now they're coming back to the world where they now have three different platforms that they have to figure out how to make function together, make a decision as to what they're going to invest in, how they're going to transition people out to a chosen platform, what that is going to mean from kind of a change management perspective, what that's going to mean from how they incorporate it into their regular workflows, and then now do they have the appropriate equipment inside of their spaces? Some of their spaces have been sitting dormant for 12 to 18 months, and are they going to be able to work with the platforms that they've chosen, and what's that transition plan as a whole? So some of where we've been able to kind of help customers is guide them down that roadmap of, okay, if you have Microsoft and Cisco in your environment, you have a bunch of Cisco devices, you have a bunch of Microsoft Teams rooms, how do you get your whole environment working together on a standardized platform and work through those scenarios? And then how do you build that long term? What does that mean for your equipment? What does that mean for your services that are attached to it in terms of support and structure and everything else like that? And so that's where we kind of start laying out that true plan for them as to what's going to be the best option. What are the benefits? What are the detriments? And how do we get them to a point where they can have a consistent experience and also not have, 27 different applications trying to work through things and nobody on the same page.
Right. Yeah. And one of the, just a quick follow up on top of that one, obviously, organizations would love, and I personally hear this all the time. We would love to consolidate on a single platform, but at the same time, we need to have something that can actually fit the different needs of every different silo of our business as well. How do you help them sort of recognize or reconcile, rather, those two kind of polar opposites that are there?
Yeah, I mean, for each customer, it's different because, a lot of it is dependent upon, why they were on the different platforms and why they have such disparate kind of structures, amongst their company. Are there reasons because of the pandemic? Are there reasons because somebody likes specific things? I mean, we have a number of customers that they like their devices. They just want to move to a different platform, but they don't want to, lose their devices. So we have to kind of go through that process of really breaking it down and kind of structuring it for them, finding out what's the most important elements to it, and then start building underneath that. So, some customers we have where their, executive teams all have specific desktop devices that they've grown accustomed to over the years. They really like it. They know how it works. They know how it's always going to work, et cetera. But the whole company's moving to a different platform now. And so now how do we get them to still utilize the whole company platform while providing for the different workflow and different expectations of kind of different components of the group? And at what level of the company is it making that request? Executives making a request that, is different than the rest of the company, and then start building kind of that true plan for them, as a whole. It's a lot of communication. It's a lot of questions. It's a lot of questions up front to customers, which, at times can be frustrating if it feels like all we're doing is asking questions. We're not providing pricing or designs or structures. But the reality behind a lot of it is we want to make sure that whatever they pick it once. And 6 months later, they're not going, oh, you guys made the wrong choice and we want to go with a different platform. We want to make sure that whatever gets put in meets their needs, now and through the future, so that they have, the appropriate solution.
You mentioned something there that is pretty interesting, is that a lot of people have, for example, desktop endpoints that they know how to use and they're comfortable with. The kind of the way people work has changed so much in the last 5 years, especially in the last year. Do you find that it's a big challenge for people that have been in a job role for so long to now take this technology and be able to do that same job role, but do it in a different way, utilizing the technology that these IT departments are putting in front of them?
It's hard. Change is hard for everybody, and especially if you've been successful prior to the pandemic. You still think you'll be successful in the same ways once people start going back to work. And so what winds up happening is people kind of just hold on to the hope that everything's going back, and it's just they're going to be able to function in the exact same way that they previously had done. And what we work on is trying to, let them know that a lot of stuff has changed and there's been a lot of advancements that will help them long term, by utilizing newer technology and finding a way, even at times, to hybrid some older technology with newer technology to maybe eventually get them to full newer technology capabilities, as they get more comfortable with things, as they go. But, part of the problem is always going to be especially people who have been very successful with things and have gotten very comfortable with being successful while using specific methods or using specific devices, you have to do even more to convince some of them to make those changes. And some of that is around things like proof of concepts, or providing, tests and trial scenarios over an extended period of time without, us hovering over them, teaching them how to use it, letting them be in their environment, letting them use it over a period of time. And then once they complete that, usually people then become comfortable. If they've used it themselves, they've gone through the process of setting up and joining meetings or joining, various webinars or whatever through their devices in a newer method without other support, then they start becoming more comfortable with it, changing into newer product lines or newer technology capabilities or even newer software.
Yeah, agreed. And I think, this idea of customer success and kind of helping your customers adopt the technology and understand what it is that they purchased, especially over the last couple of years, has been absolutely huge and instrumental for a lot of our partners' success, AVI-SPL included.
Yeah, and in some instances, it's you're just dealing with the same stuff, so you're able to kind of produce consistent documentation, consistent video, or consistent training structures to be able to provide customers. But other times, it's completely customized, like a total new solution and everything else like that. So we have capabilities of providing very, very customized training, post installation scenarios to kind of help customers ease into the use of new technologies and really get the most benefit out of what they're getting out of it. It requires a lot of effort, and you got to put the time to build that into it. But the success that you see from something like that, gets people into better technology workflows, better capabilities, and even working on newer technologies faster than they probably would have previously, because they feel comfortable with the technologies and they feel comfortable with what's coming down versus, hey, we're just going to hand this to you and we know it works, have a nice day, we'll see you in 6 months or something like that, which is unfortunately at times how AV used to work many years ago. Is it was just kind of like, here's a big thick book of paper copied things that we put together for you of how to use your system. We're going to train you once for 30 minutes. Hopefully everybody's there. And if they all are, great. If not, somebody else is going to have to teach them. And that's going to kind of be the end of it. We don't have to do that anymore. And we can look at different scenarios, and even video, video's expansion and people being more comfortable on video has allowed us to even do trainings over video where hey, a spot check, 2 months in, 3 months in, are you guys comfortable? Hey, there's this one thing that we just don't know how it works. All right, we can set up an in-person meeting on this date, or if you guys want tomorrow, we can jump on video and we can walk you through that entire scenario. We have we have everything that you had. We know exactly what it is. We have some kind of made up, so we have some documents that we can just kind of pull up and show you, via like a whiteboarding type scenario, what does what, and then pass that over to them for kind of a spot check on the capabilities of systems and everything else like that. So it definitely lends itself towards getting people more comfortable and also still following up with them on a regular basis to get them the information that they need.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
Most certainly. One of the things that I've certainly noticed is, I feel like in the last 15 months or so, the whole video industry has jumped forward about 3 to 5 years. So it's definitely critical that you spend that time with those customers now, making sure that, if they were dragging their feet, and all of a sudden, now they've made a choice that they need to be here by, this fall, all of a sudden there's this huge transformational strategy that has to take place in a very short period of time. And I think the part that's easier, even though this is not necessarily easy, is the actual technology piece, right? Going in, understanding workflows. Okay, let's tie this in here. Let's tie this in here. This platform can tie into this platform. That's all well and good. It's if people don't use it or they don't use it the right way, then it's not doing its job, right? So it sounds great that you guys have that laser focus to sort of get some of your customers there.
Yeah, and to be honest too, I mean, one thing that's helped tremendously and helped all of us that work in a video space is, people are more comfortable with video now. From Skype, and FaceTime and everything else associated with that. People have become significantly more comfortable being on video, talking to people just in everyday conversation on video. It's not a reserved for special occasions type instance. Now it's just, hey, somebody's at the store, let's get them on video real quick. And people have grown up with that, and so newer people entering into the workforce are requesting it. It's part of their normal livelihood for the last 10 years. And so once you are trying to attract more talent, and you're trying to retain talent, especially as the world is opening up due to remote capabilities that customers now, some of our customers and other entities and companies have to provide more remote workforces. You don't necessarily have to work in the city that you live in, which then opens up a whole bunch of capabilities for folks who then become even more comfortable with video because of the fact that that's what they do. So having that component to it added into the ability to teach people and move them through different things and do appropriate spot checks and just keep engaged through the process. And even the customer success part of business has matured significantly. 10, 15 years ago, that was you weren't going to see a lot of people with the title of customer success. They were there, but nowhere near as ubiquitous as it is right now amongst all types of companies, both software, hardware, and services providers. They have kind of that component to their business now because it's been proven how important it is.
Wanted to kind of change gears, and Kyle, I would like to get your take on this as well as yours, Derrick. But you've both been in this industry for quite a while, and you've kind of seen the way that things have evolved over the last decade or so. In the past year and a half, obviously, we've been talking about getting workforces to work remote and figuring out new ways to get people to be productive from home. Now it's kind of all about the return to the office and what does the new safe office look like. What do you guys think's next? What do you think the next hot topic in our industry is going to be? Hopefully, after the dust settles on return to work and the new normal is established, what's going to be the next thing that everybody's talking about?
Overall, I think there's going to be a couple things. First and foremost is somewhat of a continuation of work from home for a little while as people discover which companies are holding hard, fast rules about hybrid and remote work and everything else like that. That's going to affect staffing in the industry probably for the next 6 months to a year. As people kind of discover what's going on, there's going to be some turnover. There's going to be some structural changes because certain companies may have talked a very good game when everybody had to work from home. And then once all of a sudden they could come back to work, flipped the script a little bit. And then that's going to cause some exodus in certain places. That's going to have a big effect. But then additionally, I think the next component of it is, what are companies actually going to be? So we have IT companies, we have AV companies, we have kind of crossover hybrid AV-IT convergence, et cetera, that's been talked about for a really long time. Well, now that a lot of the actual room type systems are becoming significantly more commoditized, and standards-based systems are not used maybe as often as some of these, devices that are basically just a compute engine to connect to, web-based or cloud-based communication protocols. It's blurring the lines significantly more. So, people who can work in multiple different types of environments might be changing, industries per se while still doing the same things. So moving from AV companies into IT companies while still doing the same stuff that they were doing before, and then providing for an expanded reach and capabilities that are beyond what AV companies traditionally could handle, from security providence, governance, to document repository, to true actual collaboration structures, beyond just the unified communications portion of it, but true UCC stack capabilities that cover all aspects of a company. That's becoming a lot more, blurred in terms of what companies can provide and how they can provide it. It's not just companies provide video conferencing, IT companies provide the collaboration stack and email and everything else like that, and kind of works, it kind of doesn't, and people kind of go from there. That's going away. And in a lot of cases, the partnerships that a lot of the actual providers are coming up with, or how they integrate with every other platform and structure, that's going to drive a lot of it. If you can pick a platform and that platform has everything you need and it doesn't cost a lot of money, you're not going to see people going into these really complex integrations and everything else like that, because that takes a long time to implement. And it takes a long time to unwind as well. And so the pace at which a lot of people are looking at things and changing things, cloud computing is still breaking into a lot of places. But now you're getting into edge computing scenarios. You're getting into hybrid scenarios where some companies do want to still have on-premises type scenarios while still accessing components of the cloud, microservices, the growth of true microservices across multiple platforms and everything else like that. It's going to just change how things work. And on top of it, to be honest, one area that can't be discounted is there's a whole bunch of people entering the workforce who have been working on Google Classroom and Chrome for 10 years as part of their schooling. And now they're entering a workforce where they are being told to work on a different platform that they know nothing about. That's going to bring about some change.
Such a smart thing that they did is that approach of getting the Google platform into the classroom super early, because now, exactly what you said, all those kids have grown up and understood how to use Google over all these years. And as they get into the workforce and some of the older generation starts to move out, the demand is now we want to use Google because that's what we're familiar with. That's what we know. So just a super smart go-to-market strategy there. And it's very similar to what Apple did in the past too. And it's clearly works.
It's a long-term play. It's not, that is not a short-term, I'm going to ride quarter to quarter or anything else like that. That is what is going to be the longest impact portion of business, for a long time. The things you can do in all these cloud-based platforms now, and how you can, connect relatively easily multiple different disparate platforms. It's not, super easy, but I mean, in comparison to in the past when you had to connect, various ISDN type systems to other ISDN type systems, or when you were trying to get, faxing into specific locations or anything else like that from a computer communications perspective, I can have multiple clouds running and within a week can at least connect them together, and have them functioning at least at a base level. And that is, light years faster than what could have been done from a communications perspective, even 10, 15 years ago. And now you start thinking about that and people coming into that with creative views on how communication should happen and how video should be used. You're coming into scenarios where, Amazon and Google and even Facebook have devices that sit in your house that are cost $100 that can now connect to all these platforms. Even commercial platforms, and you can have them inside of those spaces. So somebody can have, an Echo device or a Google Nest device or anything else like that, sitting on their kitchen countertop connected to their commercial platform, and they can join a meeting real quick because something needs to happen. And people have become accustomed to that as part of their day-to-day type scenarios. You're removing barriers and walls. And then you add in the fact that people have become accustomed with working remotely over the last, 12 to 16 months. There's going to be a lot of stuff that yeah, there's going to be some pushback to go back to what was happening beforehand. But a lot of those companies that don't recognize the opportunity that's here in front of them to truly grow their workforce into the right people, regardless of where they sit, regardless of what's geographically more pleasant to them, is going to change a whole host of how work is going to happen as a whole. And costs are going down on physical hardware. I mean, in all honesty, the cost of getting a Facebook portal TV, which runs multiple UCC commercial platforms, is like $200.
Right. Yeah. So,
if you go in with
so,
if you go in with an AV system that's $50,000 that before would have been a steal, now you're looking at it like I can buy 600 of these things and have them all over the place, and if one of them goes bad, I just go down to the store and buy a new one. Versus kind of so business is going to have to change, and approach to the world is going to have to change, where how video enters into the marketplace, how communication gets structured around video. There's so many ways to do it right now, and so many ways that don't require weeks and weeks worth of commissioning to be able to have happen, that people are going to start expecting that speed, and they're going to start expecting less complex things, which is also going to lead to potentially not having so many customizations put into spaces, because people are going to go look at, okay, I can customize it and it's going to take 3 months, or I can buy stock and I can have it tomorrow.
Right. And, Derrick, one of the things that you were kind of touching on there, which is, one of the things that I sort of see here in the near future is there's going to need to be justification from organizations that still are maintaining that brick and mortar presence in some areas, a justification for people to come back into the office, because I think a lot of people have recognized, I can do my job just fine, or at least my job to 95% of what it was when I was coming to the office 5 days a week. They need that justification if organizations are still going to mandate that they come into a physical office at least for some period of time. So I do find that fascinating myself. The other piece here that you sort of touched on as well, that I see sort of in the near future is, obviously businesses talking amongst themselves has certainly grown through the pandemic in the last year and a half. That's kind of is what it is, right? I mean, you can pick any platform that you want these days, and you can have that conversation. What I still see happening, and where there's still some blue ocean out there, is when businesses start to turn or still are trying to virtualize the way that they do business with their customers, and doing that virtually. And so there's still plenty to be had there. I mean, obviously things like telehealth have been around for some time. Telehealth has exploded, over the last year and a half. But there's still some blue ocean out there for things in terms of like finance, retail. There's a lot of different areas where that's still very relevant, and I think organizations are not quite there yet. So I was curious what some of your thoughts were on that as well.
I mean, the true digital transformation for anybody is not just buying a platform that's digital. It's actually working through how you actually incorporate that into your life, your work, your play, etc. Just look at all the different, retail clothing stores that are incorporating, augmented reality into trying on clothes, or looking at what clothes will look like, where you might pick a piece of clothes and you're standing in front of a screen, and if you want to change color, it just changes the color for you in front of you, based upon kind of your requests, as a whole. That's starting to show up more places and starting to become more of a consistent experience for it. Places have to offer an actual good experience for people to want to leave their house and go participate in it. The ability to order almost anything you want and have it delivered within 24 to 48 hours means that people are going to need a reason to want, to go out for something that they already know they want to buy. that's a very big difference in terms of just how you approach the world and how you approach your daily life. You start then putting that into how people approach business and approach, everything as a whole. You start seeing things like, companies offering, looking at, how to hire people without degrees, and what would justify actually hiring people, going for, digital certifications that you can attend virtual classes, and these credentials count just as much as, certain, schooling, as a whole. So we're kind of reaching that real big tipping point where we're going to start seeing a lot of stuff change from just, life and workflow and expectations, where stuff that was comfortable before is now going to seem very old, and companies are either going to get the message or they're not. And the thing is this: for the next year and a half, companies going back to methods that worked prior to the pandemic shutting everything down might still have success. As things kind of go through, until all of a sudden things are going to change, because people are going to remember what it was like, remembering what they could do. A whole bunch of their competitors are going to be offering things that they can't, or they haven't thought about. And they're going to start drawing away their talent. And so, not having an actual plan in your life for transformation around digital and everything else like that associated with it puts you into a position of, potentially losing out on the marketplace, losing out on talent and everything else like that. If you don't have an easy way to make things happen in people's lives, other companies are doing so. Other companies are investing in that. They're investing in simplistic, capabilities that may have complex backgrounds, but the actual interfaces and the ability to interface with it are simplistic. That's going to draw people in. That's going to draw people away from working for you versus working for somebody else. And then partnerships. Partnerships are becoming regularly more, synonymous with true, solutions, as opposed to just, I'm going to buy one thing from one company, and if they don't have what I need, I'm just going to sit here and wait till they have what I need. You have multi-platform stuff happening in all aspects of your life. Pretty much everybody has, Netflix and Hulu and Disney Plus and everything else like that in terms of their capabilities of streaming options. You get people comfortable with that process over a long period of time, they're going to start expecting it everywhere. They're not going to look for, I can only do, this type of video conferencing at my office, and it only works this one way. Those same people are just going to ask their, counterparts or the people that they're working with. They're just going to jump on a FaceTime call, or they're just going to jump on something that they know that they can use on their devices right now, and they can just jump in and not have to schedule and not have to do anything else like that. That ad hoc nature of how you work with others and how you get people involved with things, it's going to change. And even the expansion of chat capabilities, people have become very comfortable with texting and IM and chat as a good source of communication, to where email becomes heavy and becomes a burden on you to actually kind of handle things, because it's very, very, formal in comparison to what you can utilize chat function, capabilities and just full stack communication capabilities, as part of your organization and as just part of your general life. So if people aren't looking at that from a transformation perspective, they still may be successful over the next 12-ish months, but that rug will be pulled out pretty hard, because they're not going to be expecting it. You expected it during the pandemic. The second time when people start going back to work and things start kind of changing and going somewhat back to at least open and everything else like that, when that second wave hits of true digital transformation in all aspects of your life, you're going to be surprised if you're not preparing for it or haven't been preparing for it for some time.
Yeah, agreed. And kind of to both of your points, I actually had a friend over for Memorial Day last weekend, and she works for a pretty large furniture retailer, and they do a lot of digital showings for folks that don't want to come into the store, so they can kind of virtually, send a picture of their living room and pick, on video with a consultant that's in the store, pick what layout works the best, and kind of have those consulting visits there. And apparently popularity for that is absolutely off the charts. So the comfort level is certainly rising. That's kind of how people want to do it. It's a convenience thing anymore moving forward. So I think you're 100% right, Derek. It's that business to consumer type of technology consumption is going to be huge coming up here in the next year or so.
And just look at how many more people they had access to from a marketplace just by offering that as a service. I mean, you went from only people walking into our store we're going to sell to now everybody who walks in our store, and however many people are interested in going to our website and setting up a digital visit and showing and everything else like that, a digital consultation. How many more people can they actually, meet with because of that? As a digital consultant, they can now meet with probably 10 times more people in a day than they could if they had to do it all in person.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
that's absolutely right.
As we're getting ready to sort of wrap here fairly soon, Derrick, I wanted to give you the opportunity. Okay, and so I'm going to set up the situation. All right, I'm going to give you an opportunity for 30 seconds. If there's maybe a senior leadership at a Fortune 500 that's sort of dragging their feet on coming into the new world that we've sort of been talking about here. If you had 30 seconds to tell them what they should do, what would it be?
Wow, there's a lot of things, but I guess the biggest thing is understand that your digital transformation should have happened 2 years ago, and so you are currently behind. And if you are not actively trying to accelerate your actual transformation, not just offering tools, but the actual changing of processes, changing of expectations, and working through what your company and what you should provide as a leader, you will be looking from the outside in at some point within the next 18 to 24 months, if not sooner. The expectation of the people that are looking for jobs and that work for any company right now is that this stuff is here. They know it's here. They know it's possible. If you choose not to provide it, that's fine. They'll go somewhere else. And you could lose out on some incredibly loyal and talented folks inside of your organization who then would provide incredibly talented things to your customer base and improve your capabilities as a whole. If you aren't thinking about that and aren't concerned about that, and that's not keeping you up at night, we could have a very different conversation in about 18 months. 18 to 24 months in terms of where your company currently is in comparison to where it could have been.
Strong sentiment to end the show. Thank you, Derrick.
That's awesome, Derrick.
And Kyle,
it's been.
Kyle,
Yep, go ahead.
that was an awesome question. As soon as he said that, I was like, geez, way to put the guy on the hot seat right at the end there. But I totally agree, Derrick. I think you crushed that, and couldn't agree more.
Yeah, absolutely. And Derrick, thanks again so much for giving us a little bit of your time here and getting to know you a little bit. And it's been a lot of fun, a lot of great insights on here today. And I think this is a conversation that we'll kind of continue having. I mean, if we do this podcast, we could do this same episode in 6 months, and it might be completely different then. So.
Very true. Things develop and change and move quickly, especially these days. I mean, just look at, one thing that we did get as part of the pandemic is all these companies that, were software focused companies, feature releases happened so fast because there was nothing else drawing attention away. And it was just focused on dropping feature release after feature release. And now it's been built into their DNA. Just look at how quick so many companies are releasing new updates and everything else like that. It's because they built it into their process for, a year, and now everybody just expects it. And if you don't deliver like that, then, that becomes a problem. So it's a very interesting time. Things change way too fast right now to be staunchly resting on your laurels on a specific path without building in some flexibility for the future, because things could change very quickly, and you could be stuck going, well, I thought this was where it was going to go, and you got to build flexibility into your life.
100%. And again, Derrick, thanks so much for your time, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
So thanks everybody for listening. Again, this was the second episode of You're on Mute, a Pexip podcast. That was Derrick Kelly from AVI-SPL, kind of giving us some insight into what AVI-SPL looks like today, where they've been, where they're going, what their go-to-market strategy looks like, and what the future of work looks like from their perspective. So we really hope you enjoyed it. Tune in next time. We're going to be trying to do these around every month or so. So thanks again for listening.